All right, so this is going to be our last lesson on adding and subtracting decimals. In fact, this is going to introduce a technique where we use addition to solve subtraction. And that sounds kind of like it doesn't make much sense, but they are interrelated with each other and can be used to solve one another. So let's look into the warm-up for an example that just uses some whole numbers. So it says, use addition to help find the difference and show your work. So the easiest way to do this is to rewrite the problem. So we know that 185, the difference between 243 and 185 is our missing number. We can also write this as 185 plus that missing number equals 243. So a way to do that is just to kind of add up small amounts and then gather up all those small amounts to get our difference. So let's do it this way. I know 185 plus 15 is going to give me 200. And I also know 200 plus 243, or excuse me, 200 plus 43 will give me 243, which is what our difference is there. So what we can do is take these two numbers and we're going to add them together. So we have 43 plus 15, and that'll give me 58. So 58 is going to be our answer. So 243 minus 185 is 58. And to double check that, make sure it's correct, let's just go ahead and try it up here. Okay, so let's borrow. Let's borrow over here. That gives us 13. 13 minus 5 is 8. Bigger number on the bottom, so we have to borrow from here. And that creates 13. 13 minus 8 is 5. And that's our answer, 58. So two different ways to do it. I mean, obviously, to me, like it took me less time to do it this way. But I did want to, before we move on to fractions later this week, is to go over this final option of doing it this way. Okay, so our lesson starts on page 215. And this time that we're going to have decimals. So it's going to increase the difficulty a bit. You'll notice that these numbers are very similar to what we're using for our warm-up, but let's get started. So Galen can reach up to a height of 1 87 hundredths meters while standing flat on the ground. His father can reach a height of 2 56 hundredths meters. How much higher than Galen can Galen's father reach? So it's looking for the difference between these two measurements. So basically our problem is going to be like this. 2 56 hundredths minus 1 87 hundredths equals the thing we're looking for. Now, the best way to do this is to take your smaller of the two numbers and then keep adding up until you reach the second number. So in this case, this is our smaller of the two. So we want to know that 1 87 hundredths plus something will give us 2 56 hundredths. So the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to round this 1 87 hundredths up to the nearest whole number. So 1 87 hundredths, if I add 13 to it, or 13 hundredths, that's going to give me 2. And then I know if I take 2 and I want to make 2 56 hundredths, I just have to add 56 hundredths. So to get my final answer, I have to add up however jumps, or how many times I increased to give my answer. So we have 56 hundredths, 13 hundredths, and there's that. So, and we're talking about meters, so that would be 69 hundredths meter. So again, it might be impractical, but it is a way to kind of see how the process works with the math. It's kind of interesting how it works, and you can do it two different ways and get the same answer. But ultimately, it's always going to come down to what method makes most sense to you. But for this lesson, we're just going to try to integrate that addition. All right, so and another thing is this is kind of like your introduction to what they call algebra, where you're going to have like letters involved with your math. For example, with this bar model, um, they visually can show the subtraction problem of 2.56 minus 187, and they want to find the difference. D equals the difference for that. So there's that way to do it. And this bar model could be translated into that subtraction and addition problem. You can also use number lines, and then what you can do is you can count up your hops. So those would all add up to our 69 hundredths if we added all those up to get that. So that's a second possibility for it. All right, so let's look at some of these problems. So look at the bar model. So that's the one under picture it. In addition subtraction equations. What does the letter D represent? So the D equals the difference. You'll find that in algebra, when they start introducing letters, they do represent certain things, and they try to do a good job of having a letter that makes sense. So what do the numbers 250, 600, and 187 represent? That is Galen's father's reach. And then the 187 is Galen's reach. So that's what the numbers and letters represent. So it's good to understand what we're working with here. So that's the bar model. The number line and model it. Why does the number line start at 1 and 87 hundredths? We are adding to Galen's height, or Galen's reach, excuse me. To find the difference. Because we want to keep adding until we reach the dad's reach. But you always start with your smaller number if you're using a number line. 3, how can you use the jump numbers above the line to find the value of D? The sum of the jumps is the difference. And how much higher can Galen's father reach? Well, let's add our jumps. Based on that number line, we have 3 hundredths, plus 1/10 plus 56 hundredths. And that equals 69 meter. Again, it's not meters because it's not even a one total meter, so it couldn't be plural. How can addition help you subtract decimals? I've got this little thing here. We have total minus the part equals the part. That's how a subtraction problem is built. And then you can take those things and create an addition problem by taking the part plus the part to equal the total. And does it matter which part you put here or here? It does not, because addition order doesn't matter. Subtraction does. All right, you can skip 5, and let's go right on to 6 on page 218. At a swim meet, Quinn's time for the 50-meter freestyle event was 39 3/10 seconds. His sister Darby swam the same event in 38 85 hundredths seconds. How much faster did Darby swim 50 meters than Quinn? Show your work. Again, we're comparing and trying to find the difference. So what we would work here with is 39 3/10 minus 38 85 equals, we're just going to call it T for time. Again, just getting you that super too early introduction to algebra. So if you recall from the last note we took, we could take the parts, add up the parts to equal the total. So let's change this to 38 and 85 hundredths plus t equals 39 and 3/10. So now let's start adding small parts to this to get our answer. I look at this and I know I can add this to get 39.0. And then if I have 39.0, I know I can add 0.3 to get 39.3. So these are my hops, basically my jumps. And this means we can add 3/10 plus 15 hundredths, and that gives me 45 seconds. I think we're going, yep, 45 second. It's not more than 1 second faster. I'll just say that. There we go. All right, so there's one way to do it. Similar situation for this one. Tamika has 2 guinea pigs for pets. Smokey weighs 39 73 hundredths ounces, and Tito weighs 45 and 25 hundredths ounces. How much more? So we're comparing and want to find a difference. Did one way over the other. So we're going to find out what the subtraction problem would look like. And put W, and that'll be weight. So now we want to take the two parts. You can add up the two parts to equal the total. So 39.73 plus W equals 42.25. All right, so what's the best way to do this one? Let's add this to it. Let's add 39. If we add 27 hundredths, that will give me 40. And 40 plus 2.25 will equal 42.25. So let's take our two differences here, our two jumps, and 2.25 plus 0.27. And that will give me 2 and 52 hundredths ounces. So I'm just going to go OZ. And lastly, this one we don't even have to do anything. We just have to set it up. Which equation can you use to find the difference between 55 and 15 hundredths and 47 and 29 hundredths? That's easy because we can take the two parts and they'll equal the total. And the only one that looks like that is this one right here, letter A. All right, so for your last worksheet, we're going to combine. Now this one's going to have addition and subtraction of tenths, and actually it's going to be tenths and hundreds. If you want extra house points, you could just go to Reflex Math and get a green light for today.